You're in a forest and you don't really know the way out of that forest. Now, Chai Lifeline is not giving them the roadmap out of the forest. That the medical teams will do. Ultimately, the Lord Almighty God does. What Chai Lifeline does is give them the compass and the flashlight to navigate through the forest.
Welcome to On Air with Chai, a podcast that inspires, brings hope, shows resilience and strength. This is part 2 of our conversation with Rabbi Simcha scholar. To quickly recap what we spoke about last time, we discussed how and why Chai Lifeline was started, the creation of Camp Simcha, and the creation and the importance of case managers. In the second part, we will continue to discuss case management. We will also discuss fundraising and the importance of having the right people behind the vision in helping reach Chai Lifeline's goals. Enjoy part 2.
The ultimate goal of the organization in dealing with families that are going through difficult crises, and that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with families that have a sick child, families that, God forbid, lost a child, families that just have issues, a lot of different issues going on. The ultimate goal is that they should not feel like they're going through the crisis alone. Now, the collateral damage of a crisis in a family is very specific needs, whether it's needs that are home-based, it's needs that are hospital-based, it's needs that are community-based. It could be very simple needs like food, transportation, even though these simple things could have a mega emotional effect if it's not taken care of, or things that are far, far more sophisticated, navigating through some very difficult medical challenges or some emotional challenges or some community challenges. But ultimately, the ultimate goal is that families should not feel like they are alone, because the most devastating consequence of a catastrophic situation is the feeling that you are alone. Nobody else is going through this, and they're right, because nobody else in their community is going through this. Illness is not, even though it may be very common today, and it's very, there are too many illnesses, especially life-threatening illnesses or lifelong illnesses that are happening in the community. But the fact of the matter is the overwhelming majority of kids are healthy. How many kids in a school of 1,000 have cancer? How many kids in the school of 1,000 have other types of life-threatening illnesses? There are few, I'm sure, but usually this client of ours is the only one in their class, or maybe there's another, but it's a very small minority. So when you really think about it, you're really alone, and when you're alone, you're lost. You're in a forest, and you don't really know the way out of that forest. Now, Chai Lifeline is not giving them the roadmap out of the forest. That the medical teams will do. Ultimately, the Lord Almighty God does. What Chai Lifeline does is give them the compass and the flashlight to navigate through the forest, to make them feel like there is light even in the present darkness. And that is the role of a case manager, a case advocate, no matter what type of name we will call him or her. It's the partner that is helping them build the safety net under them, that they'll be able to get through this very, very scary, lonely forest of anxiety and fear, and not really being in control over what's going on. And that's probably one of the most difficult consequences of any illness is successful people or even not so successful people like to be in control of their life. Some people are overly controlling. Some people are not controlling it as much as they should be, but you like to be in control. Illness takes everything out of your control. You don't know where you're going to be tomorrow. You may very well be in the hospital, and you're not going to be at your cousin's wedding. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. There's no such thing as planning. The schedule is based on your child's diagnosis that day, on your child's condition that day, on your family situation that day. So what the case manager does, in essence, yes, they're highly trained professionals. They really understand what the needs of the families are, even without the families saying it to them. That's probably the greatness of our case manager world, that they really tell you what you need. And they are an intelligent guiding light in the medical jargon, in the medical jungle, if you want to call it that. And they really become part and parcel of the family. Basically, if you break it down to the most basic part of the service, is they are partners, they're family with the family, and now they're not alone, and now they're able to navigate through this difficult forest as best as possible. And that is really the essence of everything that this organization does. It's about relationships. Even Camp Simcha, the essence, the internal effect of Camp Simcha is not that they had 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 6 years of incredible fun and incredible self-esteem building and feeling of excitement and hope and it gives them the energy to fight on. That's incredible accomplishments. But the real accomplishment of Camp Simcha is that kids don't feel alone. They have a friend who's going through the similar things. They have a counselor who they have created an eternal relationship with that's going to last their lifetime. They're not alone. And that's the reason why it's successful.
So last time we spoke, one of the things that we had said was that we're trying to create, I guess, meaningful things that the everyman could take away from some of these concepts. So I completely agree and completely understand with what you're saying when it comes to being alone, and that was the essence of case management, and that's really the essence of who Chai Lifeline is. I'm curious, how is it that you got from being somebody who's overseeing a camp, because we talked about Camp Simcha and you were running a camp, to coming up with this concept? Where did that come from to create a case manager who's going to provide support, and in many ways, like, it's almost the antithesis of what I understand many social workers are taught. Like, you're not supposed to necessarily be in contact with a family 4 or 5 times a day. Like, some of these boundaries that we need to create, Chai Lifeline kind of just says, like, social worker, throw the book out the window, and we're going to be focusing on supporting this family and how they need to be supported. I'm curious where that came from. Where was that idea that you went from camp to case management? Like, how did that bridge happen?
Well, I think we need to understand the creation of Chai Lifeline wasn't the creation of a atypical non-for-profit or atypical business. When one creates a business, you have a business plan. And then in year 1, you want to accomplish this. In year 2, you accomplish that. In year 3, you accomplish this. It's a business plan. And the business plan is based on a lot of different things. It's based on, your customer base. It's based on your financial base. A lot of different other things. that is how you should be creating, an operation in a very, very professional manner. The way how we created Chai Lifeline is, firstly, we realized this is not a business. Secondly, we realized this is not a non-for-profit, because we are doing Hashem, God's work, for His children. So basically what we're doing over here is we're helping God's children, and we need to do this God's way. Yes, we need to be responsible. Yes, we are running a business. We have to raise a lot of money, and we have to do a lot of things, 100%. But that is not what's driving us. What's driving us is the mitzvah factor. I think I spoke about this last time also, the mitzvah factor. There are an awful lot of good, solid organizations out there, whether it's in the world at large, in the Jewish world. There are a lot of good people are doing a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of different types of causes. And they're doing a lot of mitzvos, good things. Chai Lifeline's base we're not doing good things, we're doing a mitzvah. And that's what pushes us to a limit. And that's what pushes our people to a limit. And it's not a matter of it's normally done this way. What has to be done this time? Yes, we do have professional standards. Yes, we do have to have certain limitations. Yes, we do have certain boundaries. We have to have boundaries. Yes, there are things that we will do and there are things that we will not do. You have to have that, otherwise you're irresponsible. But the essence of what we do is all about a mitzvah. And that mitzvah is not defined by my personal opinion of what I consider to be a mitzvah, what I consider to be a good thing. That's defined by a much more divine book and code of law that goes way beyond me. So I think that's the essence of why we did what we did. So then we analyzed needs, and practically we analyzed needs. And we understood that after a camp, there were year-round needs. We understood this thing called loneliness. We understood this thing called practical stuff. And that's how the whole thing evolved. Yes, we did study a lot what's going on in the world at large. And we did adapt different concepts and different terminologies. And we did, we changed different things. We modified it. But that's why you have the energy, the DNA, the goal orientation of all of our people. The essence of who we are our people. So I think
So essentially, what I'm hearing is that you understood that there was certain needs that were going on throughout the year, and you felt like that was something that you want. Like, that's a huge innovation. I don't think we can play that down, because there's lots of other camps that provide support to children with serious illness, but they don't necessarily then take another stab and look at they might look at the children throughout the year, but they're not looking at the whole rest of the family throughout the year, the way Chai Lifeline is, and supporting every member of that family in the way that they need it. It's kind of like, we'll help the kid, and we might even help the kid throughout the year. Like, they might have connections with, programming throughout the year, but they're not doing nearly to the level that Chai Lifeline does. And I think that core that comes from the mitzvah, the aspect of the mitzvah, and that's that every member is affected, and we need to step up and do that. So that's an incredible innovation, I think.
Look, today there are 10 times as many families, at least 10 times, 12 or 13 times as many families that are helped by Chai Lifeline throughout the year, that their children don't experience Camp Simcha Without Borders, or Camp Lifeline, or any of the summer programs, or they're in the hospital, they're dealing with their illnesses on a day-to-day basis, and Chai Lifeline is very involved with them. So it's the overwhelming majority of our clients are not part of that summer experience.
I feel that's pretty much what separates Chai Lifeline though from all the other programs. Because here we do have camps here that deal with kids who are going through chemo and they're doing it at the camp. But after that, they're kind of on their own and the families may not be getting the support that we are providing our families. So that definitely does come into play, and it definitely is a huge innovation where you have it's all-encompassing organization that has different opportunities for those who are in the hospital and those who are not in the hospital, and those who are the siblings or the parents. So it definitely is something to look at and see how that grew and how that came to be and how it got to where it is now.
Well, it came in because, again, we had these children. We saw the needs during the year, and we were committed to taking care of these kids. And we started adding it step by step by step. It was a tremendous struggle in those days. People did not necessarily want help. People did not understand why they needed help. There are certain people that felt that help just means giving them food in the hospital. Doesn't mean any emotional support. Doesn't mean any psychosocial support. Doesn't mean any advocacy. This concept of dealing with the patient as a member of the family was really a concept that we introduced, and we really advocated this globally. And it changed the way how people look at a sick child. We never looked at a sick child as a patient. We looked at a sick child as someone, as a human being, as a child who is in a very medically compromised situation. We never looked at them as a nebuch. Look at this unfortunate kid. We looked at this kid as, okay, he is and she are children. This is a regular family, just they have these issues. And let's try to address the issues so we can keep the family together. We can keep the kid as normal as possible in these very abnormal situations.
So when you started all this, because something you just said kind of triggered something where we face this problem now, even where people don't want help. They don't want to accept the help because either they don't need it, or they don't think they need it, or they don't need the financial aid or the dinners. They don't think they need these things. So when you started off, how much of this was sales for you to get them to understand what you're trying to do?
Well, it was a lot. Even Camp Simple was a big sale. We had to be very convincing, sometimes aggressive, sometimes patient. We had to stay with the people because until they finally understood that they needed certain things, and we were able to offer them. Look, we don't have 100% of every client in every hospital. I think that would be, I don't know how it is in Canada, but I can't believe you have 100% of all clients. But we have in the upper 90s. And sometimes it takes people time to really understand that they do need. Now, you have to respect people where they're coming from. And you have to differentiate between a lifelong illness or a lifelong injury or a lifelong disability and a situation like cancer. In a lifelong situation where someone is born with a disease or with a lifelong disability or a lifelong illness, they need to access a lot of things in order for them to be able to function, whether it's public services, whether it's public health, whether it's therapies. Again, every state, every country is different, but they need to access it. It's very difficult for someone who has a disabled child to exist totally on their own. Even if they do have tremendous amount of personal resources, it's quite draining, and it's they don't necessarily, you can't buy everything so quickly. But when a child is diagnosed with cancer, which is by far not the majority of the children that we deal with globally, but when they're diagnosed with cancer, you take a normal kid in a normal family that's going along the normal route of life. school, camps, social events, hockey games, concerts. I was careful to say hockey, not baseball. But
Football.
football. I was speaking to England last week. They were talking about soccer. So it was they're going the regular route of life. Mom, dad, other kids, the regular business of life. And all of a sudden, this happens. All of a sudden, boom, a child is diagnosed. The upheaval of the moment is just unreal. So they get diagnosed. They get into they immediately go into a hospital. They immediately begin to deal with doctors that they're not used to their their regular pediatricians, and now you have to start dealing with the oncology doctors, and the wards are different. Everything is different. And then all of a sudden, Chai Lifeline comes and offering different things, whatever. And they don't want to take, first of all, many of these people maybe were donors to Chai Lifeline. Well, I'm going to start taking, that's for sick. That's for someone who needs. I'm not a needy person. So the resistance is sometimes very understandable and very natural. No one wants to be a taker. Everyone wants to be a giver. Taking means you're resolved into a situation that I cannot deal with myself, that my life is not in my control anymore. And in certain areas, it's not. When a child is diagnosed, your life is not in your control anymore. As we said before, the illness controls your life. So what Chai Lifeline does skillfully and very professionally and very warmly is they are in constant contact with that family until something happens, until whatever may happen. The family needs a break, big brother, big sister, a volunteer, the stuff that they do all the time.
Tutoring is always a good idea.
Whatever it may be, a weekend, speaking to another parent. There's so many different things that we do on a daily basis, and they finally reach out. Then you finally maintain the relation, create the relationship. Now, the relationship can sometimes become an incredible relationship a year after the initial diagnosis, or 2 years afterwards. And that's the greatness of our organization. We're patient, we're respectful. People need us. What we have to offer, nobody else can offer, and we're patient. And they're going. Most of the people are going to take us. And that's why I say I'd rather have sometimes 100% of 95% than 95% of 100%. Whereas I know that most people are going to take us. Certain people are not going to. The truth of the matter is, they're at a loss because their kids needed this interaction with us. But you can't go bring someone to the water. You can't make them drink it. So
it takes a lot of humility, I think, to accept and to do that. And but I think that speaks to life in general. Like, people have a certain mentality whenever you're coming to them with any concept or idea, and there's going to be an initial reaction, and then patience is key sometimes. I think if the answer might be no right away, but what you're selling or what you're offering is real and impactful and important and helpful, I think that's something that, with the right amount of patience and perseverance, will certainly shine through at the right time. And I think that's very much, we had this yesterday in Toronto. I had a family, we could not connect with them, a child with cancer. They just did not want to connect. And the case manager just kept in touch, saying hello, how's it going? And then yesterday the mom was like, hey, can you come over? I need someone to watch my kid for an hour while I run to do something. And, that's not normally the job of a case manager. Normally we'd send a volunteer, but the case manager was all over that, ran right to the house, spent the hour with the kid, ended up connecting with the mom. And now, the relationship is just going to go from there. And it's so true that patience and perseverance does really shine through.
And that's the greatness of the case manager. The patience, the concern, the respecting where the people are. Now, that respect of where the people are is a very important philosophy that we have, because if a parent is responsible and intellectually normal, and they made a decision about their kids, we need to respect their decision, even if their decision is wrong. Even if their decision is wrong.
That's very, very important.
And well, it's a very difficult thing to do. This is Rabbi Feinstein told me this, or Rabbi David Feinstein told me this many times. That it's their child. So I know. I mean, Toronto, it's not so common, but in New York and other facilities, sometimes you can go to a hospital that's the wrong hospital. You're in the wrong hospital. You have a child with cancer, you should be in this hospital or that hospital. It's not so. And in a lot of places in the world, people elect the wrong hospital. You're in the wrong place, and you're putting your kid really at risk. But if they made an intelligent decision, and you tried to give them all the information possible, and they still made the wrong decision, that's the decision they made, and we kind of have to support that decision. Okay,
It's so interesting.
I mean, it's kind of, you see this every day in different situations where you are in that situation, and always takes that third party looking from the outside in to see what's really going on, and then you have to convince them or get their mindset changed to understand what is really going on right now, and to be able to pull them out of that kind of situation.
It's a very, very difficult thing to do. Look, it's a very difficult thing for a person of my personality, who's pretty much, sometimes I have strong opinions, and
Just sometimes.
and I know someone's making the wrong decision, and I show them all the data. It's the wrong decision, and for whatever which reason, this person made the decision. So we have to respect it.
I want to take this conversation a little bit somewhere else a little bit, because we talk so much about how much we've been helping people and things like that, but there's a certain aspect to your Rabbi Scholar that I mean people know about it obviously, but when it comes to your I mean basically the fundraising that has come through Chai Lifeline is probably unprecedented in the Jewish world, in the history of the Jewish world. I mean, I'm sure there were times when people raised money for Israel, like during the during the state, during Herzl's time and things of that nature, Rothschild and but some of the fundraising that has come through Chai Lifeline is mind-blowing, and the innovation that has come, whether it's with Team Lifeline or whether it's some of the things that have happened in what was it last year where we did the matching campaigns, or Bike for Chai, really. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that and the mindset and the creativity that it takes to create all of that. And where does that come from? I mean, going back to maybe the early days, we can talk about you had these great ideas of case management, but how are you going to pay for it? Where did you go? How did that get done? And that's just the start as a young man. I can't even imagine.
Let me tell you something. To be honest with you, I don't know. I knew the job had to get done, and we just went out to do it. We took some pretty risky risks.
Tell us about that. Tell us
I'm
about
not sure if I would do it again.
I'm curious though. What were those risks? What were those in the early days?
The risk was buying things and not knowing how to pay for it. The risk was okay. Let's buy a camp, and we didn't really have any supporters behind us. We went out.
So buying Camp Simcha, you had nobody who was like, "Hey, I want to buy you a campground."
Zero. I borrowed $50,000 from somebody. Put it as I gave it as a down payment. And then I gave the guy. Then I had to give another $100,000 just for the closing or whatever. I gave the guy a $100,000 check. It bounced.
Can't even imagine. What year was that?
And whenever we bought it, like almost 30 years ago, the check bounced. I just happened to have the lawyer liked me. He called me up. He said, Rabbi, let me tell you something. The check just bounced in my escrow account. The deal could be over, but I'm not going to tell I like you. I'm not going to tell anybody about the check bouncing. You'll have 24 hours. Just make the check good. I bought another $100,000. But
Wow.
so these type of things, I'm not so sure it was the most prudent thing to do, but I was absolutely committed to the cause, and I was absolutely committed that this thing had to get rolling. But I think that's me, but I think the greatest lesson that your radio audience should learn was a lesson that my father taught me. May he rest in peace. He would tell me always, know exactly what you don't know. Recognize what you know, and what you know, be confident about it. And you'll be able to make a decision based on your knowledge. You understand it. You went through the appropriate sources. And what you don't, but most of all, recognize what you don't know, and then try to find the answers for that. So to this day, we're always open in the Chai Lifeline to new ideas. We're always open to interesting ideas, to innovative ideas.
Yeah,
we're not afraid to check.
Moshe Turk told us about that, how he pitched you on Team Lifeline, and you thought he was crazy, but we spoke to him a few weeks ago, and how that went, and even Bike for Chai as well, the way that started.
Right.
Just it takes a certain, and I don't know that people recognize this. It takes a certain apparatus that's already created that will take these ideas and run with it. A Team Lifeline, a Bike for Chai, if it wasn't created by somebody such as yourself, Rabbi, it wouldn't exist. It would just, the idea would come and it would just move on. The environment for that needs to be set up.
So this was the environment actually that I'm talking about, is that the people we give people leadway around us to be able to be thinking, to be creative, and present the ideas, and we're not afraid to learn from people, and we're not afraid to say, it may not be a bad idea, let's try it. Listen, there were some great ideas, but and we're not afraid to change. Like, things have dramatically changed over the years. Certain principles remain the same, but certain fundraising programs, everything has changed. Our summer programs used to be a swimathon program. Now it's something else. And there's so many things that change with the times. And so someone that's experienced or a little bit mature as myself needs to surround themselves with people that are significantly from a different generation, and they're telling me what's the in thing. And certain things I understand, certain things I trust them that they understand. Certain things I realize that we both don't understand and we're not doing it. But so,
and how do you find those people? How do you know who you can work with?
The most
important. That's a major issue, I would say, right now, is finding good people.
Yeah,
nobody wants to. That's a whole different conversation. Finding good people at all, that's a real problem in the not-for-profit world, not just with us, but in the world at large. It's a whole different conversation. But the people that are around me, I look for brains. I look for a thinking person. I look for a learning person. If the person will not learn, they're not going to make it. If the person's a thinking person, a creative person, the person's not afraid to challenge, challenge an idea back and forth, they're not the person that's going to be in my inner circle. I'm looking for minds. I'm not looking just for skill sets. That perhaps is 2 or 3 levels under me. Okay, just skill sets. I'm looking for someone that has a mind. I'm looking for someone that can take an idea and tear it apart. I'm looking for someone who's not afraid to challenge something And that, thank God, Baruch Hashem, over the years, we've had huge people, great people that are able to do that. And, they bring criticism, they bring good ideas. Uh, they have built, as yourself, have built tremendous operations that we have, the community is very proud of because we give them the direction. We don't control them. We give them the idea. We constantly keep on challenging them. We let them make certain mistakes, but not global errors. And there have been numerous things that whatever we've spoken about over the years that I, didn't object to and I didn't agree to. Some of them I was wrong, and some of them, most of the time, I'm right. But that's the fact. That is the fact. Those are the type of people that you want. The Lubavitcher Rebbe once said, "A leader's greatest objective is to create leaders, not soldiers. Leaders. You need to create leaders, and leaders make mistakes, but leaders take responsibility."
I was listening to a podcast recently over the past couple of days, and Simon Sinek was on it. He's the guy who wrote Start With Why. One of the things he was saying that when he first started, he had $10,000 in the bank account to pay for his overhead and pay for his 2 staff, and he didn't know how he was going to make the money. And he'd have people calling him up and say, "Prove to me why I should hire you," kind of thing. And he'd say, "Don't hire me. I don't want to work with you." So he'd continue on saying that he'd only want to surround himself with people who think the same way he does or have the same beliefs that he does. And over time, by doing that, by surrounding himself with those kinds of people, he grew and grew and grew into what he is today. And I feel that's kind of what happened with Chai Lifeline, where everybody here has the same mindset, where we all know the goal. We all have the same understanding of what we're trying to reach, whether it's the volunteer department, the fundraising department, the family service department, where we're all trying to do something for the families, do something for the kids. So I feel that is also part and parcel of why it's been so successful, is who we are surrounded with in the offices in general, like especially the camps.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, you also have people in leadership roles with us that come from different types of backgrounds. You have people that come from yeshiva background, people that are not so observant background. They're people of great integrity, great talent. They have certain commonalities to them, but they're different people. Their private lives are different, and I think that's gives us a sense of unity, gives us a sense of perspective, and it gives us a sense of energy that a lot of other types of organizations don't necessarily have.
Rabbi, I want to go somewhere, and we can cut this if you don't like it, but I want to ask the question because I'm curious about the question. Over the years that I've worked under you, a number of organizations have sprung up from people who used to work at Chai Lifeline. Some, Rabbi Goldberg with his organization, other organizations. I'm curious, what are your feelings towards some of these organizations? Because some of them have gone out and done some great work, and some of them left under not great circumstances with Chai Lifeline, and some left under great circumstances with Chai Lifeline. But I always want to understand from your perspective, how do you feel about these organizations?
First of all, let's take Rabbi Goldberg, Goldberg, okay, who was the director of Camp Simcha for numerous years, who left, started Kids Kicking Cancer. Him and I are very, very dear friends. I think in his book, he acknowledges myself and his experiences at Chai Lifeline and Camp Simcha that helped develop the whole Kids Kicking Cancer program. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, and I think he's doing a great job, in the field that he elected to do. I'm very excited that people can take their experiences from our organization and go ahead and do other good things for the community. We don't have a corporate hold on good things. It belongs to everybody. Listen, there are people that left under not such nice circumstances, and some people wanted to, I'm going to create a situation that's going to hurt Chai Lifeline. Usually those people aren't successful, okay, and they're not successful. But there have been many organizations that have come out of our organization that people are very successful, and I've helped them. I've helped them with my time. I've helped them with my connections. There are numerous organizations throughout the world that have sat in my office and I've coached them. I have someone calling me from Montreal. Some new organization this woman is starting up. I'm fine with it. I'm good with it. My instructions to the people around me is that we are not the only ones. And we're not supposed to be the only ones. But we're going to be the best one. Chai Lifeline is the best. It's the best of what we do. There's plenty of room for people to do good things in this world. There's plenty of things that people can do that complement us. I remember one organization that the head of the organization that came to me, they wanted to start paying for insurance policies in different communities in the States, came to me. I said, that's a great idea. Why don't you do that? I encouraged him to do it. And we then took the money, the $1 million a year that we were spending on people's insurance policies, and we invested into something else. And he's doing a great job, that organization. They're doing a great job. There's plenty of needs of our community that need to be filled. Fertility needs, crisis needs. There are plenty of needs. If everyone can work together, it'll be a great thing. So our greatest challenge at Chai Lifeline is remaining to be the best. It's much easier to climb the hill than it is to stay on top of it.
You've said that to me many times. Rabbi, we only have about 10 minutes left of your time today. And, there's so many areas we could go, but I want to take this at a little bit of maybe a lighter stance. I don't know. It's been a 40-year career, 30-year career?
Oh, 37.
So, what are some of the most memorable stories that stand out to you as being impacted you as rabbi scholar? What touched you? Because I know in my role in Toronto, like, it's hard to touch me 15 years later. It does happen, but it's not like it was in the early days. And I'm curious, what are some of the most meaningful or impactful things that you'd be willing to share with the audience?
Firstly, I look at Chai Lifeline as every day. Every day is impactful. And that we can help so many people every day, that's worth all the years. All the years. Every day is worth all the years. It's not about Simcha Scholar's career. It's about Chai Lifeline's impact today. So that I know that there are children being helped and families being helped in Canada and in England and in Los Angeles and all over the world, that to me is fulfilling. One of the most impactful moments of my career was I used to be very much more involved in the day-to-day elements of the families than I am today. And I would always tell families when they would ask me, Rabbi, how can we repay you? Do me a favor. When the time comes that your daughter or your son gets married, don't forget to invite me. That's what I would tell them. And I still tell them the same thing. Don't forget to invite me. I get a lot of invitations every week. Some people I don't know who the heck they are. I don't know if I was invited from the groom's or from the bride's side. You know, sometimes I'm lost. I can go to a wedding. Okay, I'm here. Like, so what are you? You're the rabbi. You're the mashgiach. But
Line.
Anyway, I was driving once with my kids in the car. Actually, I took a day off, which is not a normal thing for me. Actually, a very rare thing. I was driving. We were in someplace in the Catskill Mountains. We were driving. I think we were going to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. If I remember correctly, it was these big hills. I'm driving and the phone rings. And those were the days before it lit up on the board. You had to pick up the phone and say hello. So I answered the phone, said, Rabbi Scholar, yes, this is so-and-so. Okay, how are you, so-and-so? Well, you told me that when my daughter gets engaged, it becomes a kala, which becomes a bride, which she gets engaged, to inform you. Well, we get a mazel tov. My memory flashes back about 10 years before that to a young girl in Miami, Florida, very sick girl, who the local regional office helped, and she went to Camp Simcha, she went to Wish at the Wall, and she did she went through the whole Chai Lifeline career. And then, thank God, she graduated and she went on with her life, high school, college, and now she's getting married. When are you getting married? She tells me the date. A couple months later, I come to the wedding. It was in Marina Del Rey. It was a wedding hall in New York. It's a packed wedding. And I had a busy day. I probably came late. And I'm sitting kind of in the back, outside by the bay. And my mind is reflecting, how sick this child was, how broken the parents were. It's reflecting. And the chassan walks down, the groom walks down, the kala walks down. It's really a beautiful sight. And then they call me up. They knew I was there. They called me up for a bracha, for a blessing under the chuppah. I come up. I want to tell you, it's been years since I saw the father. It's been years since I saw the mother. And I definitely don't recognize the bride. Because I recognize her as a small, sickly kid who was bald. And now she was this beautiful, magnificent queen under her chuppah, who looked majestic, who looked royal, in front of a couple of hundred people in the most magnificent environment. So I come up and they give me the cup of wine. I look at the mother of the bride and she's crying. I look at the father of the bride and he's crying. And I look at the kala, the bride, and she's crying. And nobody else knows why they're crying besides me. And then I begin to say the bracha and I'm crying. I sat down after the chuppah and I said to myself, I finally got tears of joy and I was only used to tears of sorrow. That is a moment that will be etched to my mind. And there have been many, many more moments like that. Many, many more moments like that. So that's probably one of the greatest moments of my personal Chai Lifeline career, but it's really duplicated every day. Because there's so many life-altering moments like that. And when you reflect and you see exactly what's happening, Sometimes I go up to Camp Simcha, some of the people don't know who I am. The older people say, "Oh, the boss is here." But what does a young counselor know? Like, who are you? Like, do you have permission to be here? but and you see the energy of the young men and the young women. You see how the DNA is just replicating, and the energy is still movement, and that connection between camper and counselor. You go to visit an office in Canada or someplace else, and even though certain things are different, but the essence is the same, then you know that you've helped God's children, and God's imprint is right there. Thank the Almighty God that I have the integrity and the honesty to realize that everything that people think I accomplished, I have not done anything. It's all the man above. So as long as that stays with me, as long as that is the direction of our organization, that it's not us, it's all him, you're going to see success that's going to quadruple upon success, that's going to quadruple on more success. Now, we've had ups and downs. Trust me, there's been some pretty shaky moments here. The pandemic was one of them. And no one thought we were going to exist till the next day. Thank God we're here, we're strong, and we're able to talk one to another. So it has nothing to do with what was accomplished. It has nothing to do with what is being accomplished. We can never be happy until we continue accomplishing what needs to be accomplished. And when we're happy, then we're going to have a good perspective, because it's going to be from a good view upstairs.
Well, I want to say, Rabbi, I know how precious your time is, and I want to thank you very, very much for your openness to this idea, and for answering the questions as you have. And as perhaps among the greatest Jewish leaders of our generation, and certainly of many past, creating one of the largest Jewish organizations in the history of Klal Yisrael, we're certainly honored to have you on, and look forward to working with you for many, many years. It's
Amen. Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege, and you've been very gracious with all your accolades. Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You will.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Simcha Scholar, for taking the time to speak with us today again, and imparting your wisdom and experience on us, and sharing the stories of the hardships that you had to endure going through the creation of Chai Lifeline, and dealing with the families for the first time, and opening up Camp Simcha, and growing the case management department to what it is today, and thinking possibly, we do need maybe to change the name of it, but also to understand, like we stated in the conversation, that people go through crises and they don't always know what is needed or what will help them. They're so focused on the situation that they're dealing with that they can't step out of it. So it always helps to have that third person from the outside, that third party, to kind of see what is actually going on inside and what will help the family. And that is what Chai Lifeline does, and that's what we are great at doing. Thank you to the listeners. I hope you guys were able to take some understanding of what it takes for our Chai Lifeline teams around the world really to do what we are able to do. And a lot of it we wouldn't be able to do a lot of it without the donors. So thank you to the donors as well. You guys do make everything possible for us to be able to provide the services to our families and to the children to make what they need possible. So thank you again, and I hope you guys enjoy listening to all the rest of the episodes. Thank you. On Air with Chai is a Chai Lifeline Canada project produced by myself, Brian Strasberg, hosted by myself and the Chai Lifeline Canada Executive Director, Mordechai Rothman. Guests are booked by Orly Davis, and graphic design is done by Candace Alper. On Air with Chai is edited by myself, and the music is provided by Music Unlimited at pixabay.com. To learn more about Chai Lifeline and how you can help us, please visit our website at chailifelinecanada.org.